as I've been just in this place that I just described to all of y'all, I know I mentioned it slightly last week, but Father has been unpackaging for me in context of what I shared last week about reviving the soul. Now, I want to ask everyone right now to lay down, let go, open your hands, open your heart, and let go of everything you've understood, all the ways you've understood and filtered what you've heard through, oh, yes, yes, I know that because it says in blah, blah, blah. This is that. Let that go regarding the soul and regarding Jubilee. Because today we're going to be talking about Jubilee, the realities of Jubilee, and it's directly connected to our soul. Okay. So this morning, I was actually just having some tea, enjoying the quiet of the morning. And this morning, so Greg Ordway, love it. Father began to quote, literally quoted all of 1 Corinthians 13 to me as I'm having tea this morning. And you guys, you can quote it by memory. I know you can. But I'm going to read it instead of quote it. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. And let me stop there again. Even with this and what we know about love, let it go. Because Father wants to open up something new and unique that you've never understood. Even as I'm reading this, don't let it be read in your spirit through the framework, the limited framework of what you've understood about love and the manifestation of love. Okay. Love is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love takes no pleasure in evil, but rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things. Love believes all things. Love hopes all things. Love endures all things. Love never fails. Let me stop there for a second. What are the all things? What are the all things? I'll just leave that there. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be restrained. Where there is knowledge, it will be dismissed. Pause. Let me ask a couple questions. These are all I'm literally giving you the conversation Father and I were having this morning. Why do prophecies cease? Don't answer that because it's not based on what you think you know. Why are tongues restrained? Same thing. Why is knowledge dismissed? We've all assumed that all of these things, prophecy ceased, tongues restrained, knowledge dismissed, this all happens when Christ returns, right? And in a way, that's true, but not the way religion has taught. Not the way probably almost every one of us on this call, if not every one of us on this call, everyone that'll maybe watch this video later on has been taught. We've been taught that, oh, it's not me, it's him. That humanity and all of creation will be the spectator of Christ's return, kind of like loyal subjects and serfs to his reign. But can I just say that none of that is his Father's heart? How can it be if I am him and he is me? How can any of that, it's not me, it's him, apply to anything? Does Father see himself as a serf or as something less than all of his unlimitedness? Prophecies, tongues, and knowledge are irrelevant when you and I realize we are the manifestation of our Father in our body, in substance, in our soul, in every realm and dimension. That's why prophecies, tongues, and knowledge cease, because the greater reality and truth is not just revealed, but realized, embraced, and experienced. All of creation goes from talking about it, from teaching about it, from hoping for it in the future as a future event or whatever. And they literally are experiencing I am firsthand. When you are in the midst of experiencing something, you don't need to talk about it. You don't need to be taught about it. You don't need to hope for it in the future. You're in the midst of it in the now. And all you can do is embrace it. You can just feel it, be it, embrace it, be in the midst of the breath of it. Right? Verse 9. For we know in part and we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial passes away. The knowing in part, the prophesying in part, the seeing in part, those are all the aspects of what we're going through right now. What we're talking about every Sunday as we are being awakened to the realities of our I amness. We're literally experiencing the doing away with of knowing in part, prophesying in part, and seeing in part. It literally right before our eyes is becoming not part is becoming non-existent. That even that reality of knowing in part, prophesying in part, and seeing in part is becoming non-existent, because you and I, all of humanity, all of creation is being awakened to the realities of I am. Those moments when you know and experience revelation in one part or aspect of yourself, and we've talked about it many times, how you can have a revelation and an awakening in this part of yourself, the way you used to react and respond to something, the way you used to believe something, and now Father has brought a greater revelation, a greater awakening in your being that is expressed through you, right? And suddenly you have this aha moment that revelation or that awakening also applies here in yourself, also applies to this aspect of how you respond or react. All of that is you and I watching the in part pass away, literally become non-existent, because you and I are being awakened to the realities, the unlimitedness of our own I amness. That is the shift. That is the awakening, the experiencing the perfect being revealed within you and I personally. We are literally experiencing the perfect being revealed. That revealing of who you have always been, engulfing, literally consuming, taking over the aspects that were only partially known, realized, and experienced, that were only known by talking about it, but didn't know how it felt in substance, only being taught about it, but craving to experience it personally in your own life, in your own existence. Seeing something far off, going, okay, am I ever going to get there? Not realizing you've always been there, You've just been living from a structure man and religion created that it's a way far off somewhere. That's why we read in Acts 1, one of my favorite verses that I've been quoting for a couple years now. All of those with Christ, with the risen Christ, seem to be stuck in a different world because they kept asking the same thing, the same question. Lord, is this now the time you're going to build your kingdom? Because they were still living out of the in part reality, right? And you and I, because humanity has been structured to believe that to be true, and it's not. There has to be an awakening of the realities of I am, starting within here, right? That's the only way that the in part is consumed to allow the realities of I am to be made manifest through you and I experientially. Now let's continue. 1 Corinthians 13. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I set aside childish ways. Now we see but a dim reflection as in a mirror. I'm not even going to go there. That'll be for another day. Thank you, Father. Then, oh, all right, hold on. Okay, I will share that. So, you know how we oftentimes refer to ourselves as if we're looking in a mirror to see Father's reflection? And that's a good analogy. It's a really good analogy. And a place to begin. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. Stop talking about being a mirror. I'm not saying any of that. Don't even think that way. But do you see that even as it's stated in this verse, now we see but a dim reflection as in a mirror? So there's a greater reality than even seeing yourself as a reflection of him. You are not simply a reflection of our Father. You are him in the earth. If you still sit from a position of seeing yourself as a reflection of him, allow yourself to be expanded. You're not simply his reflection. Because if you read this verse just this one little verse, that's part of still functioning from that child place. And it's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. It's simply just not being aware of the bigger reality of yourself. That's it. That's all. And that's still amazing. Just like my 3-year-old grandson, he's 3. He still doesn't fully, in his conscious understanding, realize the magnitude of who he is. But he will, because it's all there. It's all there, contained within him. I am is right there looking at me face to face, substance to substance, eye to eye. So what shifts when you begin to allow yourself, body, soul, and spirit, to experience your I amness, no longer from a place of reflecting Father, but being the substance of him in the earth. Could that have something to do with Jubilee? Let's continue. Then we shall see face to face, substance to substance, that becomes and is, not even becomes, is one substance. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I'm fully known. And now these 3 remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Do you realize And this is what hit me this morning, right? As I'm sitting there. And literally all of this just came flooding in as Father is quoting to me 1 Corinthians 13. And it wasn't like he was quoting scripture. It was like he was singing a love song that is, I am, he and I, if I can say it like that. This entire chapter is a letter to you and I from Father, showing us the way of awakening to our true nature and identity. It's literally the letter within us being experienced in substance, a letter of promise of our own identity, the one we have always been, not who we're hoping to be or will become to be or eventually realize. It is the always within us that is coming out. It's literally Father's encouragement, strength, and a surety that who we are, who you are, is so certain and so unstoppable, it cannot help but be revealed from within you experientially. We've always been the revealing of Father, of Christ covering the earth like the water covers the sea. That's Habakkuk 2:14, if you need to reference that. But do you realize, okay, wait, just think about as the water covers the sea, that language. How does water cover a sea if a sea can't be a sea without the water? Isn't it just a big chasm if it doesn't have the water? Isn't it the water that makes it the sea for a sea to be a sea? It's actually the water that makes it that. Do you realize that you make I am, I am? You and I are the very substance of I am. Because just like a sea can't be a sea without the water, you and I, one with Father, is the very expression of what I am is. And everything, underline that word, that is contained within the possibilities and the heart, the intention that Father has ever, will ever, and is contained within those little words, I am.